The deep silence of space was broken by the soft hum of the exploration vessel Starseeker as it drifted through the outer reaches of known space. Captain Tom Reed stood at the bridge's main viewport, his weathered face illuminated by the distant stars. 20 years of space exploration had taught him to trust his gut, and right now, his instincts were screaming that something was different about this sector. "Captain, we're picking up an unusual energy signature," called out Jack from his monitoring station. The young sensor operator's fingers flew across his console, bringing up detailed scans on the main screen. "It's like nothing I've ever seen before." Reed walked over to take a closer look. The energy pattern pulsed with an eerie regularity that seemed almost alive. "Any matches in our database?" "No, sir, but—" Jack paused, his eyes widening. "Wait. There's something else out there. A ship, I think. Dead in space." The bridge crew fell silent as the image of a massive derelict vessel appeared on their screens. Its hull was unlike anything humans had encountered before. Sleek, organic-looking curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal, now scarred and torn by something powerful enough to rip through advanced alien metals like paper. "Life signs?" Reed asked, though he already suspected the answer. "None, Captain. But the ship's data core seems intact. Should we send a team?" Reed studied the wreckage for a long moment. Protocol said they should call this in first, wait for backup. But out here, backup was weeks away, and something told him they didn't have that kind of time. "Prepare the shuttle. I want a 4-person team. Tell Anna from Science she's leading this one." Within an hour, the exploration team was aboard the alien vessel. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that looked more grown than built. Anna's voice crackled over the comm as they made their way to the ship's control center. "Captain, you need to see this," she said, her usual calm voice tinged with excitement. "We've accessed their logs. The Universal Translator is having a field day with their language. But, well, you should read this yourself." The data streamed back to the Star Seeker's computers. Reed watched as alien text transformed into English before his eyes. His blood ran cold as he read. "Warning to all vessels. Avoid Sector 7 Alpha. The Nightshade has been sighted. 3 colony ships already lost. It cannot be killed. It cannot be stopped. If you encounter the entity, your only hope is to—" The log ended there. "There's more," Anna reported. "We found references to this Nightshade in their historical database. Apparently, it's some kind of space-dwelling predator. The aliens called it World Ender and Star Killer. According to these records, it's responsible for the destruction of at least 2 civilizations." Reed felt the weight of command settle heavily on his shoulders. The right thing to do would be to mark this sector as hazardous and leave, but humanity had never been good at backing down from challenges. Besides, every predator they'd encountered on Earth had turned out to be a potential friend, once you understood it. "Anna, download everything you can about this creature. Jack, start analyzing those energy readings again. I want to know if there's any connection to our mysterious friend." "Sir." His first officer stepped closer, speaking quietly. "The Galactic Council specifically warned us about investigating anomalies without backup. After what happened to the Meridian colony." Reed smiled slightly. "The Council also said humans would never survive first contact, yet here we are, 50 years later, with 17 species calling us their allies." He turned to face his crew. "We're not leaving. If this Nightshade is really out there, then we need to understand it. Not just for us, but for every species it's terrorized." As if in response to his words, the ship's sensors suddenly lit up like a Christmas tree. The energy signature they detected earlier had just gotten stronger. Much stronger. The hunt was about to begin. The first attack came without warning. One moment, the Star Seeker was running deep scans of the nebula. The next, something massive and dark passed between them and the stars, blocking out the light like an eclipse. "All hands, battle stations. Reed's voice rang through the ship's speakers. He'd been doing this long enough to know that running wasn't an option anymore. The thing was too close, too fast. Through the viewport, they finally saw it clearly. The nightshade looked like a cross between a giant manta ray and a storm cloud, its body seemingly made of shifting darkness. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, its skin rippling with patterns of bioluminescence that reminded Reed of Earth's deep-sea creatures. "Energy spike," Jack shouted from his station. "It's charging something." The blast hit them before he could finish. Not weapons fire, but pure energy that seemed to drain power from every system it touched. Emergency lights flickered on as the main power grid struggled. "Report," Reed demanded, holding onto his chair as the ship shuddered. It's eating our power, sir." The engineer's voice crackled through the comm. "Shield generators are down to 40%, 30%. Whatever this thing is, it's literally feeding on our energy." Anna's voice cut through the chaos. "Captain, look at the sensor readings. The creature's neural patterns. They're organized, complex. This isn't just an animal attacking for food. It's playing with us." Reed studied the creature's movements on the tactical display. Anna was right. The nightshade could have easily torn them apart like the alien ship they'd found, but instead, it was making passes at them, testing their responses. "Launch countermeasures," Reed ordered. The Starseeker released a spread of defensive buoys, each one programmed to emit a different frequency of energy. The nightshade paused its attack, seemingly curious about the new objects. It approached one buoy, then another, examining each with what looked like genuine interest. "Sir," Anna called out, excitement in her voice. "The creature's brain activity spikes differently with each frequency. It's learning about us, just like we're learning about it." Another blast rocked the ship, but this one felt different, less powerful, almost gentle. The nightshade swooped past their viewport, close enough that they could see detailed patterns flowing across its skin like living constellations. "It's young," Anna suddenly announced, her fingers flying over her console. "The size, the behavior patterns, comparing it to the records we found. This has to be a juvenile. That's why it's not just destroying us outright. It's curious." Reed watched as the creature made another pass, this time rolling in space like a playful dolphin. Despite the danger, he felt a smile tugging at his lips. How many species had died fighting this thing, never realizing they were essentially shooting at a teenager? "Sir," his first officer spoke up, "we still have weapons lock. The Council would expect us to take the shot while we can." Reed shook his head. Humanity didn't get where it is by shooting first and asking questions later. "Anna, you said its neural patterns are complex. Can we communicate with it?" "Maybe." She was already adjusting sensors. "If we could match the frequencies it's using, create some kind of response." The ship rocked again as the nightshade made another pass, but Reed noticed something important. Each attack was getting progressively gentler, more controlled, like a cat learning to play without using its claws. "Keep the shields up, but power down weapons," Reed ordered. "Let's show our friend out there that we're not like the others. We're not here to fight." The crew looked at him like he was crazy, but they obeyed. As the weapon systems powered down, the nightshade's movements changed. It drew closer, its bioluminescent patterns shifting to softer, more regular pulses. "Well," Reed said softly, watching the massive creature drift peacefully alongside them. "Looks like we just made first contact with the galaxy's most misunderstood species." The real challenge would be convincing the rest of the galaxy that the infamous nightshade was more than just a monster. But then again, changing the galaxy's mind about supposedly dangerous species was becoming something of a human specialty. 3 days had passed since their first encounter with the nightshade, and the creature hadn't left the Star Seeker's side. It drifted alongside them like a massive shadow, occasionally swooping in circles around the ship in what the crew had started calling its happy dance. Anna hadn't left the science lab except to sleep. Her desk was covered with data readouts and empty coffee cups as she studied the creature's patterns. The doors slid open, and Reed walked in, carrying fresh coffee. "Please tell me that's the strong stuff," Anna said, not looking up from her screens. "You need to see this, Captain. It's amazing." Reed set down the coffee and looked at the display. The screen showed two mural pattern readings side by side. "What am I looking at?" "The left one is the Nightshade's brain activity. The right one." Anna grinned. "That's from an octopus on Earth. See the similarities?" Reed leaned closer. The patterns were almost identical. "Are you saying our space monster thinks like an octopus?" "Similar, but more complex. Like our friend out there, octopi are incredibly intelligent and naturally curious. They love to solve puzzles and play with new things." She pulled up another screen. "And look at this. When we play different types of music through the ship's external speakers, its neural patterns change." As if to demonstrate, she started playing classical music through the external speakers. Outside the viewport, the Nightshade's bioluminescent patterns shifted, matching the rhythm of the music. "Mozart," Anna explained. "It seems to particularly like the classical stuff. But here's what happens with rock music." She changed the track. The creature's patterns became more energetic, and it started spinning in space. "It's dancing," Reed said, amazed. "Actually dancing to the music." "That's not all." Anna pulled up more data. "Remember how it was draining our power? I don't think it was attacking us at all. Based on these readings, it was trying to communicate. The energy drainage was its way of saying hello, like how dogs sniff each other when they meet." Jack's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, you might want to come see this. Our friend is doing something new." When Reed reached the bridge, he found the crew staring out the viewport. The Nightshade had moved in front of the ship and was creating complex patterns with its bioluminescence, like a light show. "It's mimicking the music patterns we played," Anna said, joining them. "It's learning our forms of communication and trying to respond in kind." "Sir," one of the junior officers spoke up, "I had an idea. My sister works with autistic children back on Earth, and they sometimes use color patterns to communicate. What if we tried something similar?" Reed nodded. "Do it." They adjusted the ship's external lights to create simple patterns. To everyone's amazement, the Nightshade immediately copied them, then added its own variations. "It's not just copying," Anna said excitedly. "It's building on what we show it, making it more complex. This isn't just intelligence. This is creativity." As they watched, the creature started making its own patterns, waiting for the ship to respond. They were playing a game of Cosmic Simon Says. "Captain," Anna's voice became serious, "I've been analyzing its behavior patterns. You know how I said it was young? Well, I think it might be the only one left. Its reactions to us, the way it stays close to the ship, how eager it is to communicate. It's showing all the signs of a social creature that's been alone for too long." Reed watched the massive creature as it continued its light show. The most feared predator in the galaxy, the destroyer of civilizations, was actually a lonely child looking for friends. "Well," he said, "we humans have a pretty good track record of adopting strays. Let's show this one what friendship really means." Outside, the Nightshade swirled happily in the starlight, its patterns glowing brighter as the ship responded to its game. The monster of the galaxy was finally finding its family. Mike, the ship's engineer, hadn't slept in 2 days. His workshop was scattered with parts and tools as he worked on his latest invention. Empty energy drink cans littered his desk, evidence of his marathon work session. "I think I've got it," he announced as Reed and Anna entered the workshop. He held up what looked like a large satellite dish with extra bits attached to it. "I call it the Thunder Tongue." "The what now?" Reed asked, raising an eyebrow. "Well, we know the Nightshade communicates through energy pulses, right?" Mike pointed to his creation. "This baby can generate the same kind of pulses, Think of it as a universal translator, but for space creatures instead of aliens. Anna picked up one of the components, examining it carefully. Will it work? Only one way to find out. Mike grinned. I've programmed it with the patterns we've observed from our friend out there. If I'm right, we might be able to actually talk to it. Reed nodded. Do it. Getting the device outside was tricky. They had to use the maintenance airlock and the ship's robotic arm to position it correctly. The Nightshade watched the whole process with obvious curiosity, its massive form hovering closer than usual. Here goes nothing, Mike said, and activated the device. The thunder tongue hummed to life, sending out a complex pattern of energy pulses. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Nightshade's entire body lit up like a Christmas tree. It responded with its own burst of energy, gentle this time, carefully controlled. It's working, Anna exclaimed, watching the readings on her tablet. The neural patterns show excitement, but also understanding. It knows we're trying to talk to it. Over the next few hours, they began establishing basic communication. The Nightshade learned to respond to simple signals, 1 pulse for yes, 2 for no. It was like teaching a very large, very powerful dog basic commands. Look at this, Anna said, pointing to her screen. When we send friendly signals, its neural patterns match those we saw in the historical records of its species. I think we might be the first beings it's met that reminded of its own kind. The creature did seem to be getting more comfortable. It started showing them new behaviors, like creating beautiful light shows that looked like Earth's aurora borealis. Sometimes it would gently brush against the ship's shields, not to drain power, but almost like a cat rubbing against someone's legs. It's not just communicating anymore, Anna observed. It's showing affection. The breakthrough came during the 3rd day of their experiments. The Nightshade had learned to modulate its energy field so precisely that they could actually lower the shields in small sections without any risk. Through the observation dome, they could now see it up close, its skin rippling with patterns that looked like flowing stars. You know what this reminds me of? Reed said, watching the creature. Those old stories about sailors meeting whales for the first time. They thought they were monsters too, until they got to know them. Mike's device had revealed something else. The Nightshade wasn't just responding to their signals, it was learning from them. It started mimicking the ship's maneuvering patterns, showing them it could be gentle with its massive strength. Sir, the communications officer called out, we're getting signals from the Galactic Council. They've picked up our energy signatures. They know we're in contact with the Nightshade. Reed sighed. He'd known this moment would come. The Council had always seen the Nightshade as a threat to be eliminated. Convincing them otherwise wouldn't be easy. Outside, unaware of the brewing political storm, the Nightshade created another beautiful light show, this time forming patterns that looked remarkably like Earth's constellations. It had been paying attention to their star charts. Well, Reed said, straightening his uniform, looks like we'll have to teach the galaxy the same lesson humanity learned long ago. Sometimes, the scariest creatures make the best friends. The Galactic Council chamber was massive, with seats for representatives from over 50 species. Today, every seat was filled. News that humans had tamed the Nightshade had spread fast, and no one was happy about it. Reed stood at the center of the chamber with Anna beside him. The Nightshade waited outside the station, visible through the giant view screen behind them. It was creating gentle light patterns, completely unaware it was the subject of a heated debate about its right to exist. This is madness. The Centauri representative slammed his 4 hands on the podium. That creature has destroyed entire civilizations, and you humans dare to treat it like a pet. With all due respect, Reed replied calmly, those civilizations tried to kill it on sight. We tried to understand it instead. The chamber erupted in angry shouts. The council leader, a tall being with silver skin, raised her hand for silence. Captain Reed, while humanity's unique approach to dangerous species is well known, this goes too far. The nightshade is not some earth animal you can domesticate. Anna stepped forward. Actually, that's exactly what it is. She activated a holographic display showing comparative brain scans. The nightshade's neural patterns match those of several Earth species we successfully befriended thousands of years ago. Like wolves, which became dogs. Dogs don't destroy planets. Someone shouted from the upper seats. Neither does the nightshade, not anymore, Reed countered. What you're seeing is the result of fear and misunderstanding. Every species that encountered it responded with violence. How would you react if everyone tried to kill you on sight? The chamber grew quieter as Reed continued. Humanity has a long history of turning feared predators into allies. On Earth, we once feared wolves, bears, and big cats. Now they help us in countless ways. We learned that respect works better than fear. Anna pulled up more data. The nightshade is young and alone. Its species might be extinct because everyone was too afraid to understand them. But look at these readings. It's intelligent, gentle when treated with kindness, and eager to learn. The council leader frowned. And what happens when it decides to turn on you? When its predatory instincts take over? As if on cue, the view screen showed the nightshade performing a series of complex maneuvers it had learned from the Starseeker. Its movements were precise and careful, showing complete control of its massive power. The same thing that happens when a dog gets aggressive. We teach it better, Reed explained. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to understand and connect with other species. Look, Anna added, we've already taught it to communicate. It helps guide ships through dangerous areas. It can be a protector instead of a destroyer. A murmur of interest rippled through the chamber. The idea of turning the galaxy's most feared predator into a helpful ally was starting to sink in. The human practice of domestication is well documented. The science minister spoke up. Their success rate with predatory species is impressive. The council leader studied the nightshade on the screen. It was now creating beautiful patterns of light, something it had learned to do just to make humans happy. Perhaps we have been too quick to judge both the creature and humanity's approach. We're not asking for much, Reed said. Just time to prove that understanding is better than fear. The nightshade could be the first of many space-dwelling species we could learn to work with instead of against. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Finally, the council leader nodded. You have one standard cycle to prove your methods work. But know this, if that creature shows any sign of its old destructive behavior, we will take action. Reed smiled. That's all we need. After all, humanity has a pretty good track record when it comes to making friends with the universe's scariest creatures. Outside, unaware it had just been given a chance at a new life, the nightshade continued its dance among the stars, waiting for its human friends to return. The Starseeker's crew gathered in the observation deck, watching their unusual friend perform its morning exercises. 2 weeks had passed since the Galactic Council meeting, and the nightshade had learned more than anyone expected. Watch this, Mike said proudly, activating his improved communication device. He sent out a series of energy pulses, a new pattern they'd been practicing. The nightshade responded immediately. It positioned itself in front of a dangerous radiation field that had troubled ships for years. Then, using its natural ability to absorb energy, it created a safe passage through the deadly space. Perfect. Anna clapped her hands. It's getting better at this every day. Reed smiled, remembering how the council had demanded proof that the creature could be helpful. Well, creating safe travel routes through dangerous space was just the beginning. The real test came sooner than they expected. Emergency signals blared through the ship's speakers. Captain, Jack called from his station. Distress call from a colony ship. Their engines are failing, and they're being pulled into a gravity well. Reed checked the coordinates. The colony ship was too far for them to reach in time, but maybe. Send the coordinates to our friend, he ordered. Let's see if those rescue drills paid off. The Nightshade received the signal and disappeared in a burst of speed that still amazed them. On the main screen, they tracked its progress toward the colony ship. "Cutting it close," Mike muttered, watching the numbers. "That ship's got maybe 10 minutes before it's too late." The Nightshade reached the colony ship with minutes to spare. The crew watched in awe as the creature positioned itself beneath the failing vessel. Using its massive body and energy absorption abilities, it created a buffer against the gravity well's pull. "It's not just holding the ship," Anna reported excitedly. "It's actually feeding power back into their engines. It's charging them up." The colony ship's engines flared back to life. As the Star Seeker arrived at the scene, they found the Nightshade gently guiding the larger vessel back to safe space, like a parent teaching a child to swim. "Open a channel to the colony ship," Reed ordered. The colony ship's captain appeared on screen, his face a mix of fear and amazement. "Captain Reed, is that really the Nightshade? The same creature from the old stories?" "The very same," Reed confirmed, "though these days it prefers helping ships to hunting them." Word of the rescue spread quickly through the galaxy. Soon, other ships began requesting the Nightshade's help for dangerous missions. The creature seemed to love the work, especially when ships rewarded it by playing its favorite classical music. "Look at these readings," Anna said one evening, showing Reed her latest data. "Its brain patterns have completely changed from when we first met it. It's not just learned behavior, it's genuinely happy helping others." The Nightshade demonstrated this daily. It would escort ships through dangerous regions, help stranded vessels, and even use its energy absorption abilities to protect ships from solar flares. The same powers that had once made it feared now made it an invaluable ally. Other spacefaring species began studying human methods of animal handling. Some even started sending scientists to Earth to learn about domestication and animal bonds. "You know what the funny thing is?" Mike said, watching the Nightshade playfully swirl around a thankful merchant vessel. "All those advanced species, all that technology, and none of them ever thought to just try being nice to it." Reed nodded. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Humanity learned long ago that friends are better than enemies, no matter how scary they might look at first." Outside, the Nightshade finished its escort duty and returned to the Star Seeker, its patterns glowing with contentment. The most feared predator in the galaxy had found its purpose, not as a destroyer, but as a protector. "Send the report to the Council," Reed told his communications officer. "I think we've more than proved our point." 6 months after their first encounter with the Nightshade, the Star Seeker's observation deck was packed with crew members. They were celebrating two important events: the Galactic Council's official recognition of the Nightshade as a protected species, and the discovery of something incredible. "There," Anna pointed at the long-range scanner display. "That's definitely another one." Through the viewport, they watched as their Nightshade, now officially named Nova by the crew, approached the energy signature they detected. From the darkness of space emerged another massive shape, slightly smaller but unmistakably the same species. "It's a juvenile too," Anna confirmed, checking her readings. "Probably even younger than Nova." Reed watched as Nova created gentle patterns of light, communicating with the newcomer. The crew had learned enough about Nightshade behavior to recognize the greeting ritual. "Remember how everyone thought Nova was the last one?" Mike said, grinning. "Turns out they were just really good at hiding. Kind of hard to blame them, considering how everyone used to shoot at them." The new Nightshade was cautious at first, but Nova's presence seemed to reassure it. Within hours, it was following them just as Nova had done months ago. "That's the third one we found this month," Reed noted. "They're coming out of hiding because they've seen how we treat Nova." The discovery of more Nightshades had changed everything. Each new one they found was younger than the last, suggesting that somewhere out there, adults might still exist. The species wasn't dying out. It had just been hiding from a galaxy that feared it. "Captain," Jack called from his station. "Message from Earth Command. They're expanding the Space Wildlife Protection Program. They want us to help train other ships in nightshade handling." Reed smiled. What had started as one crew's decision to be kind instead of afraid had grown into something much bigger. Ships across the galaxy now carried modified versions of Mike's communication device, just in case they encountered a nightshade. The new one they'd found was already showing the same curiosity that Nova had. It watched carefully as Nova demonstrated how to safely guide ships and absorb dangerous radiation. "You know what's really interesting?" Anna said, reviewing her data. "Each new nightshade we meet learns faster than the last one. They're not just learning from us. They're learning from each other." The evidence was clear in the way the new arrivals quickly picked up Nova's habits. They learned to create safe travel corridors, protect ships from solar flares, and even enjoy classical music, though each seemed to develop its own favorite composer. "Message from the Trade Guild," the communications officer announced. "They're requesting a nightshade escort for their new deep space route, offering the usual payment, upgraded energy converters, and a full orchestra performance." The nightshades had become so helpful that ships now actively sought them out. The same creatures that ships once fled from were now welcomed as guardians of space travel. "Look at that," Mike pointed out the viewport. Nova was teaching the newcomer how to safely absorb excess energy from a ship's engines, a trick that had saved countless vessels from overload. "Who would have thought," Reed mused, "that the galaxy's most feared predator just needed a friend?" Anna checked her tablet, smiling. "The Council's Xenobiology Division is recommending that all space exploration teams receive training in animal handling. Apparently, humans' ability to befriend dangerous creatures is now considered an essential skill." Outside, Nova and its new companion created a spectacular light show, their patterns dancing together in the darkness of space. More ships were arriving daily to observe and learn from what the media had dubbed the human touch, the unique ability to turn feared creatures into allies. "You know what this means?" Reed said, watching the nightshades play. "We're not just changing how the galaxy sees these creatures. We're changing how the galaxy sees us." The Star Seeker continued its mission, now accompanied by not one but two cosmic guardians. In the end, humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their ability to see past appearances and find friendship in the most unexpected places.